if a community has an education system, pretty much everything developed in that society depends on that education system. I think pretty much how you relate people to their effectiveness depends on an education structure that you take them through. I'll start with where we got independence. All over Africa, the people that understood the necessity for Africans to be independent were people that had been offered as a token, of just tokenistic leadership, scholarships to go and now study either in the UK or study wherever it is that their colonial masters were situated. For most of these people, it was the realization of how actual countries and actual systems differ from their society that raised their consciousness to question the things in their society. And unless people are able to understand a different dimension that's existent, it is very hard for political consciousness to be built. And so the education system, what people learn through education, is able to build a particular way of analysis, but also is able to build a wealth of knowledge and access to information that is able to then define how politically conscious a generation can be. I'll give you an example. If you are closed into state media as a country, political consciousness in that country could mean that your leader is the best leader there is in the world. In fact, all the other leaders in the world hate your leader because he's effective. That's because the only thing you're consuming from your media houses tells you that. And that's the case with countries like North Korea. But if you go to other countries that control their media, but their media is actually not telling them about how bad the other country is, telling them about what they need to do as a people, and it's still also keeping that rhetoric as a single rhetoric, you will also realize that people can become a resilient part of what the country can achieve and become a driving force of the political consciousness and the political ideology of a country that's uniform across the country. So in that instance, you would say still that the education offered that population is toward a particular goal. There are other situations where you find a society is just a liberal society, a society where everyone is learning everything from everywhere. That kind of society is what we call a free society, and it's a beautiful society, and freedom is very important. But what you lose in that society is that with the freedom for everyone to access what they want and define what they want for themselves, what you lose is the uniformity of a country moving in one direction, because you will never find all Nigerians agreeing on a point. They all agree on the need for good leadership. They will never agree on who can offer the good leadership. Everyone paints someone. In fact, it goes as far as someone basically just putting someone in a situation where they paint them, they frame them, so they can be the qualified person to be called a good leader, and the other is framed to have a political scandal or something like that. Therefore, political consciousness starts from a place of one, knowledge access. Can people understand where the world has been in its different forms from its different places? Can they understand the different alternatives that have been taken up by the world? Someone doesn't have to have the understanding in terms of technical description of what communism means and what capitalism means as economic systems and how these affect the political terrain of nation states. Someone doesn't have to understand all that technical language, but they need to understand what it would mean in their local society for them to work as a unit, and what it would mean for them to not work as a unit, but reward merit of individuals and be led by those that are merited in that society. That understanding of knowledge and that acquisition of relevant information, of comparative information, is the start of political consciousness. Then they need to move to their identity. Identity is a very important thing. You know, some of the reasons why Africa is still where it is because those that have had the chance to get out of Africa or get the political consciousness or the platforms of benefit have only used those to enrich themselves and not enrich the identity that they carry. Identity is a very big tool. Many times we have understood identity in things that have brought us together as nations. When Nigeria is playing against, say, England in the World Cup, when Uganda is playing against Kenya, then there's a strong idea around who you are and where you must support. It is very rare. In fact, it could, in Africa, invite a beating if a Nigerian were to say that they really support the Ghanaian team when Nigeria is playing Ghana. For some reason, that identity just comes naturally to them, but it actually does not per se come naturally. It comes as a consequence of an education that you are a sovereign state and that you have duties and that you are a citizen and that these are your people and that this is your country and that you are free in your country. And so this knowledge, protected by the institutions of the state, is able to nurture a pure identity direction for the people of Africa. And so consciousness, like I said, starts from the access to understanding political systems, then to understanding your identity. And then finally, it ends with defining an end goal for where you think political activity should lead us to. And this, for me, is the perhaps it comes in last, but it's also one of those that I should say is very important, because where a country should go, where a people should go, where a society should go, if you're able to define what your vision statement is, but also not just define the vision statement, but see and visualize and envisage how that vision looks in terms of schools, in terms of hospitals, not just envisage how those hospitals look, but to be able to put that down on paper and say those have this bed capacity, the schools have, this education capacity, the football stadiums house this seating capacity, and you define that in this time period, so that those are the yardsticks upon which you measure the success rate of the leadership of that society in driving you there, a place that we would call destiny or a place that we would call home. That is, in fact, a very important part of our political consciousness. So those three steps, I would say, are the defining notion for developing a political consciousness and analyzing it and achieving it, and therefore harboring one. One, you gather your information through an education. Two, you understand your identity and make sure that's the bedrock of your existence. And then three, you are able to define your goal point, or when you can say we have succeeded as a society, and what actually those successions look like.